sharing our concerns, sharing our testimonies, sharing our witnessing of how each of us are a part of this bigger picture here in DC and all over at the tables. And so there's going to be two movements with this. The first one is you're just going to be at the table where you are right now with who you're with, okay? And you are invited to probably already have introduced yourself, share where you come from, but then also find out around the table. Most of us fit into what I'm deeming as 3 categories. You get to pick which one. Testimony. Testimony is, an example would be like what we heard a bit from Sandy Springs Friends School, going down and recognizing after witnessing what's going on at the encampments, how that also connects with your faith testimonies as well. And then I'm also asking Jay Herbert, if you could please come forward also. This is going to be an example of what we can see as a chance of witnessing. Many of you do it in different ways, but this is a way outside and with our faith that we can witness. And then prayer concerns. We are here because we know people, we know communities, we know organizations that are constantly burdened but also inspired to work for social justice, particularly in economics, around housing, around healthcare, around food, you name it. And I want to give a deep gratitude to those organizations who are also here. I see Neil, and I know Michael was here from National Coalition for the Homeless. They are actually housed here in this building. Huge witness to keep this country inspired by recognizing there is enough for everyone and people need a bed. There are other nonprofit organizations, activist organizations that are here. If you would, please, we would like to know that you are spread out in this room, okay? So if you're here with a group, later on we're going to invite you to please spread out, okay? Because we want people to meet one another. I want Jacob to please introduce yourself and then give your example of a witness. And that's an example that many of you can share, but also you could share with one another at your table.
Good morning. Good morning. I am J. Herbert Nelson, and I'm director of the Presbyterian Church Office of Public Witness here in Washington, D.C. And we advocate for social justice policy of the Presbyterian Church approved by the General Assembly of our denomination, and we struggle with this Congress. I'm also joined here this morning, I'm looking at Sandy Sorensen in the back of the room from the United Church of Christ office as well. In July, we struggled with the issue of the spending caps being raised, and the president asking for that to be raised in order to be able to accommodate the level of debt that we've been carrying as a nation. And for about a month and a half, we spent a good bit of time in front of the United Methodist Building, which is at 100 Maryland Avenue, lifting up prayers each and every day around noon. We also sent out action alerts to our constituents, asking them to communicate with the president and also with Congress, to come to some reasonable understanding beyond the political morass that was taking place here in Washington. The struggle that we then saw was the continuation of the infighting. We continue to see what you all have labeled and what I think is actually true, the corporatization of government, the inability to move, because powers and principalities actually control the Congress of the United States. And so as a result, through a great depth of prayer and through some great time appealing to our constituents, we had our national leaders to fly in, the heads of communities from across our denominations. Also, we are interreligious groups, so Islamic and also Reform Judaism were part of this as well. To come in and to meet with the leadership of Congress on both sides of the aisle. And it was an interesting day. It was the day after the president made a speech and followed by House Speaker Boehner. It was clear that both of them were on different sides. The next day, our leaders came in and we went to the different offices clear that it was not going to be a good thing. I remember in one of our last meetings, one of the budget persons who was putting together a budget at the time for one of the leaders happened to say, when we asked the question, what is this budget going to look like? His response was, we don't know what it's going to look like, but what we do know is that whatever it is, it's going to be bad. We as faith leaders immediately went into a state of depression. Came back across the street, sat in silence for about 5 to 10 minutes, trying to figure out what in the world you would say when you met with all of the leaders of your nation, for the most part in their office, in Congress. And absolutely come away with nothing. No hope, no possibility of anything being done. And as we sat there and talked for a few minutes, we actually left that afternoon in prayer, but also recognizing that we had no answer. The next morning, we were brought together a coalition. Bob Edgar, who was part of Common Cause, actually joined us in this struggle. And we were able to arrange getting into the Capitol Rotunda for a protest. And we said, what better way to go into the Capitol Rotunda other than to go and just get on our knees and pray. As both houses of Congress met, declaring we're standing in the, kneeling in the middle of that, declaring that these two sides need to come together. And so we did. And as we prayed, of course, we, when people ask us what were we doing in the Capitol Rotunda, we tell church folks, we say, well, we were praying. Whether they're on the left or the right really doesn't matter, because they could not understand why you would be arrested praying. But we knew when we went over there that we were going to be arrested. And we knew that we were not getting off of our knees until something began to shake down. And ironically enough, during the time that we were actually praying, to show you how deep the struggle was with Congress, the reports came back to us that they were fighting over whether or not to have the Capitol Police arrest us or not to arrest us on that day. And while all of this was going on, we were kneeling down on a marble floor. And vanity kicked in, and we were trying to struggle over who was going to get off of their knees first. As the pain was shooting through our legs. But the reality was that we were there to stand up, in a sense, for people of faith. And to declare that faith does have something to say about what takes place in this nation. And to declare that if we're going to talk about government for the people, of the people, and by the people, then let's be real about it. Because it's government for the rich, of the corporation, and by those who have enough money to buy politicians. We've got to find another way in this country to move forward. Most of our offices, the very next day, our Facebook pages, a number of our social media pieces, we do probably about 30 to 40 hits a day in our office. On the next day, after the, I should say the day of the event, 3,000 people came onto our Facebook page. That was reported in the same kind of manner from each of the offices that carried some level of social media. And the very next day, 1,800 people. And so the spike on that suggested that we did send a message, particularly across our churches, our synagogues, and our mosques, ultimately declaring that faith was not going to bow to this God that has been created in this country. A God of power, a God of dominance and control. But that we the people were going to stand. And I want to say, I admire what is happening in Occupy. I do believe the church, and I've said this over and over again, particularly about the church, has to begin to join the kind of work that you're doing.